research article is histone modifications, not DNA methylation, causes transcriptional repression of P16 in the mammary glands of offspring of protein-restricted rats. Before we start talking about what's exactly in this journal article that was published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry in 2010, so we'll talk a little bit about epigenetics as a subject. Epigenetics is a study of changes in the gene expression based on environmental factors. A bunch of different factors like what you eat, what you do, what you're around, there can be chemicals, food, different exercise programs, even what you do for work. Currently, the mechanisms of epigenetics are being debated. There's a lot of different articles out there saying a bunch of different stuff, and we're closing in on an answer right now in research. How genes are regulated and expressed may have to do, like I said before, with things like diet and lifestyle, where you are, what you do. But the most important part is that in epigenetics, these changes can be passed on through generations. They can go from parent to child. The recent research questions that we've been asking in epigenetics is we want to know how the information is passed from parent to child. We want to know the exact chemical mechanism of that so that we can, start to fool around with it and start to figure out how to cure certain diseases. We want to know what patterns it follows. You guys have all heard about certain hereditary things like hair loss or like a funny nose that someone might have that they say, oh, I got it from my mom's side of the family, but it skips a generation. If you've ever heard that, then these are the types of patterns that we're looking for epigenetics to explain. Because it's not just a set, structure in the DNA. There's a lot more factors involved and a lot more chemical reactions involved. The other thing that we're really looking to answer in epigenetic research is we want to be able to predict changes in phenotype. Phenotype is the physical characteristics of someone, whether or not you have red hair or brown hair, blue eyes or green. What we're looking to do is figure out exactly how to predict smaller changes in phenotype. In this article, we're talking about repression of a single gene. So if we can predict that, if we have a good understanding of how epigenetics works and we can predict phenotype, then we'll be in a better position to treat certain genetic diseases and also explain a lot of things in natural selection. In order to think about epigenetics, we have to change the way we view genes. Chromatin is the massive genetic material inside your cell. It's not only composed of the DNA macromolecules, but also the protein histones that they wind around. Histones were once thought to be just place markers. They were a structural component of chromosomes that the DNA wound around in order to make the structure of the chromosome. But now that we're starting to look at histones, we can see that they can be modified. Different parts of the histones can be acetylated, methylated, and these changes in how the histone comes together can affect the expression of the genes on the DNA that's wound around them. The other question that we need to look at before we get into the article is why nutrition? This article is from the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry. What we eat determines the makeup of our bodies. It is everything that our bodies use is something that we eat or drink. There's very little that just soaks in through our skin. We know from past research that lack of certain nutrients can lead to disease. You have beriberi, you have scurvy, you have a lot of different deficiency disorders that'll happen if you don't have enough of something. But it's a direct correlation. It's if you don't have vitamin C in your diet, you will get scurvy. We also know, especially in America, this is something that we've been dealing with quite a bit, and it's one of the biggest money makers in medicine and chemistry is the fact that overnutrition affects our health. Everyone's always trying to lose weight. Malnutrition can affect health. It can lead to a lot of different coronary disease, diabetes, a whole bunch of things that aren't really good for you. So we want to make sure that when we design our nutrition, we keep these two factors in mind. But the third factor that we have to look at for nutrition is that we are realizing that nutrition has an effect on gene expression as well as direct consequences for our bodies of malnutrition or overnutrition. It can affect the way our genes are passed on. Now we're going to be looking at protein-restricted rats for this journal article and the repression of the P16 gene, which was linked to a couple of different cancer factors. This experiment was looking at the effects of reducing the protein that these rats ate over a healthy amount. What these researchers concluded was that the modifications of the histones accounted for changes in their appearance and their gene regulation. They were able to find out that the modifications in these histones were what was causing the repression of these genes and causing their low body weight. But these were not changes in the rats that had the restriction themselves. These are changes in the offspring of those rats. This is something that was passed from mother to child. We didn't just restrict, the rat's protein intake and say, oh, they got smaller, because that's something we already understand. What we were looking to explain was how it affects the passing of genes from parent to offspring. Talk to you guys a little bit about protein. Protein is an essential macronutrient. It forms not only the histones that we're talking about, but it also forms all enzymes. That when genes are expressed, they code for a protein. They don't code for anything else. It's proteins that make all the other molecules. Enzymes are proteins that make most of the molecules in our body. So proteins are the direct result of gene expression. We also know that protein makes up about 20 to 30% of a healthy diet in an active adult. So after giving you guys a little bit of background, next week we'll take a better look at the journal article. Thanks, guys.